George, name your top 5 record stores.
Tower Records, FYE, Barnes & Noble, eBay. Stan's Records was my favorite. It was down the street from where I'm at now. It closed a few years ago, and now it's an Armenian bodega.
I know a comedian named Rob Gordon, which is the name of John Cusack's character in this movie. Think we can name 5 more Gordons?
Gordon from Sesame Street.
Commissioner Gordon from Batman.
Batgirl was Barbara Gordon.
Gordon Gekko from the movie Wall Street.
Gordon Lightfoot. He sang Sundown. Oh, and they mention him in this movie.
It's Noah.
Hey guys, what you doing?
We're making lists of 5s of things. Want to join?
Sure.
Can you name the 5 members of the Jackson 5?
I'll give you a clue. None of them are Jesse Jackson, because I have to clarify that I can tell black people apart from each other.
Yeah, you do. God knows. How many times have you called me Todd Montesey?
0, Joe, 0.
So he called me Todd or Reverend Sharpton, which is really bizarre.
Well, you did that one clip. It's on YouTube. Anyway,
when did you figure that out?
right now as I'm reading the script.
Okay, so the Jackson 5 consisted of Tito Jackson, Marlon Jackson, Jackie Jackson, Jermaine Jackson, and little-known Michael Jackson.
Okay, name 5 John Cusack movies, because you keep showing up for them.
Apparently, yeah. Okay, Stand By Me, Better Off Dead, Con Air, Gross Point Blank, and High Fidelity, which is why I'm here in the first place.
He's good.
So good.
Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast that looks at old movies and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romaka. And today we're discussing High Fidelity from 2000, a movie that does not feel like it should be from 2000. It feels like an 80s movie, but it's from 2000. And some historical context.
Well, we know it can't be an 80s movie because no one is raped.
We'll get there. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and Counter Social. Please tell your friends about us and leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod. And speaking of patrons, this is a patron's reward pick. Ian from Wine Country became a patron just to make us watch this film. And one more thing, we have a guest. He watches way worse movies than we do on God Awful Movies. He's made falling down Wikipedia holes a profession on Citation Needed. He's been diatribing on Scathing Atheist for over 10 years now, which is just about how long ago I quit smoking. And occasionally, he lets Eli Bosnick play God on D&D-. Please welcome back Noah Lugeons.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you, big, large crowd of people that just cheered for me. Thank you.
I remembered to put the applause sound in. I was proud of myself. So Noah, it took way less convincing than I imagined it would. And to be fair, it's always like that because Noah is a treasure and I'm just feeling impostery. What are you doing down here in the worst part of the podcastiverse to own a record store?
Well, so, you really sell yourself short, man. This is the best movie that I've watched for a podcast in like a year and a half. I mean...
Was that how long it's been since we've had you on?
You say something like that, yeah. It's been a while. Like, I'm used to things that were shot on people's iPhones while they were still trying to sip coffee with the other hand that's trying to send the message that rapists, should probably be forgiven and have a say in that abortion. Like that kind of stuff. That's the quality of film. So, like, whatever it is that you guys want me to do, I'm always like, okay, well, that's a step up from what I normally do. Yeah, let's do that.
Well, sadly, some of those elements are in this film.
Well... I'm not gonna disagree with you, Joe. I'm not gonna disagree with you.
So I have to apologize. This is a surprise for you, but this film isn't too innocent itself.
That was a Britney Spears song, right? Not That Innocent?
Not that innocent.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna discuss Britney later.
Alrighty. Are we? Yes, we are. That's right. Okay. Joe, take us back to 2000.
Welcome to the History Corner, where those who are ready to rock salute you! This week, in honor of today's film, we're going to look at music from 2000. That's right, music any old way you choose it. Let's start in Chicago. What were the 5 best concerts in that city that year? I have no idea, So I let a reviewer for the Chicago Tribune by the name of Greg Cott tell me. George, headline from this December 29th, 2000 article.
Lounge acts finale, Smashing Pumpkins top a year of many shows.
According to Mr. Cott, the number one music event in Chicago that year was the final concert at Lounge Acts. After 12 years, the indie rock club had a 2-week farewell. I will now quote. Among the highlights are a thundering performance by 11th Dream Day that echoes the band's earliest Prairie School freakouts, and a closing night reunion of the club's nominal house band, The Cocktails, with multi-instrumentalist Mark Greenberg throwing open the back door and leading the celebrating audience in one final cathartic howl into the frigid Chicago night. End quote. I'm not being a dick here when I ask this. I don't know music that well. Have either of you heard of 11th Dream Day or the band Cocktails? And bonus question, have you ever attended a club show on its last day?
No, no, and no.
Yeah, I'm so no on all of these questions. I don't know any bands. Like, I don't know who does any of the songs I like. I've never been to any band's show at any club on any of its days. So yeah, no. All kinds of no.
My biggest regret, and I really should have gone, was when CBGB's closed. Do you guys know CBGB's?
Nope.
No.
Wow. Okay. That was one of the biggest punk clubs in New York City. It's where the Ramones got started.
Oh, nice.
It was huge. And then I guess the rent went up or something, and suddenly they had to close, and they just had one big blowout. But I didn't attend because I'm an idiot.
Oh, Joe.
Yes?
Nothing. Don't call yourself an idiot. You're not an idiot.
Next on the list is Smashing Pumpkins' last ever show, which occurred at a joint called Metro. This club was a place the Smashing Pumpkins played their first gig in 1988. So a 12-year run for them too. Not bad. I think they started up again like 6 years later or thereabouts, but let's stick to 23 years ago. Did you guys listen to Smashing Pumpkins?
I've heard them. I know they have songs. I know I've heard their songs. I can't recall a single one right now because for some reason, when we sit down to record, I can't remember anything by anybody ever.
Isn't that just how it works?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not mistaken, if I recall correctly, I had a roommate in college that played at one of Smashing Pumpkins CDs like on a loop when he was falling asleep. And that was the only way he could fall asleep. And so I learned to hate the hell out of everything that was on that album. But I like, through no fault of their own, I'm not a fan.
Hold on. You're both younger than me. They had headphones in your era. How come you didn't put headphones on?
They didn't have in-ear headphones in that era.
Oh, so it was just leaking out from his headphones.
No.
No. Like, you can't really sleep with headphones that are over your ear. You have to have in-ear headphones to functionally sleep with headphones in.
Because otherwise you roll over and you knock them off.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I have gone to sleep with headphones on, but okay.
All right, well, that's it. I mean, I
guess
know.
I'm special.
Yeah, some folks can do it. That's a skill that some folks have and some don't, I guess.
Third on Cott's list of great Chicago concerts of 2000 is D'Angelo, who performed at the Chicago Theater. For the kids out there, D'Angelo is a black R&B singer and not an easily listening Italian that sings Frank Sinatra tunes. I mean, that's what his name makes me think of. Any thoughts on D'Angelo, guys?
I just think of D'Angelo Vickers, the guy that took over from Michael Scott in The Office, who ended up going to the hospital and breaking his neck.
See, I was just thinking he was my third favorite of the Ninja Turtles. I think I have the wrong guy, though.
I think you do have the wrong guy. Donatello, Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael.
Oh, so I'm smooshing two of them together in sort of a portmanteau thing there. That's it.
Yep.
That was it.
All right, so let's be clear here for the just to clue the audience in. I don't know music, and apparently neither do the two of you.
Correct.
No.
Okay, all right, good. We picked the best film there. Great choice all around on our part.
We did not pick this film. Our patron picked this film.
Yeah, it's Ian somebody's fault, right? Who is it?
Ian of Wine Country.
Ian of Wine Country. That's what he goes by on Patreon.
And boy, do I wish I had wine right now. I could use a whole big glass of wine. Anyway, fourth on music critic Greg Cott's list was a band called Flatliners. I will quote, "The reunion of the original alternative country supergroup Cosmic Cowboy, Jimmy Dale Gilmore, honky-tonk rocker Joe Ely, and prankster poet Butch Hancock." Well, that's a name. Mm-hmm. Butch Hancock. Anyway, sorry, back to the
Yeah, I wouldn't
story.
want to be in a gunfight with a guy named Butch Hancock. Yeah, I get it.
Nope.
No, not at all.
Or a porn film.
Well, no, I'm not ruling that out.
Anyway, Butch Hancock is long on loopy West Texas humor, classic songs, Dallas, Boxcars, If I Were a Bluebird, and a handful of wonderful new tunes that redefine Texas country soul. One of them sums up the trio's outsider's perspective. Now that I know everything that I know is wrong, it feels so good. I might be right where I belong. End quote. More names I don't recognize, and I assume the same is for you guys.
No.
No, I didn't know that alternative country was a thing, or Texas country soul was a thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's overstating the idea that there's an alternative country super group. I don't think
Yeah.
like we've never even heard of the genre. I don't know. I think maybe he's just being a little grandiose.
I believe these gentlemen won a Grammy, so someone's heard of them.
Well, this movie got nominated for a Grammy, so,
Sure. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Or not? I don't know. I don't know where you're going with that. Like saying, well, this film got
I'm
nominated.
denigrating the Grammys, Joe.
Okay. I honestly didn't know where you were going with that.
Is it because they're so satanic?
George has no idea what you're referencing right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
I do.
Oh, okay. I never know what you know.
I listen to Noah's podcast. I'm aware of things that he knows about things like that.
Okay. Fifth on his list was a band called High on Fire and their heavy metal performance at Double Door. All I know about heavy metal is I knew this guy who listened to it just to freak out his parents. Any thoughts on this band or heavy metal in general?
Don't ingest heavy metals if you can avoid it.
And the music?
I freaked out my parents with it. I can tell you that.
Oh, so you did it as well.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Come on, with hair like Noah's?
Yeah. No, I played heavy metal. I sang heavy metal back in the day. I wasn't good at it, but I sang it.
Who were your favorite heavy metal bands?
I never was really into music that much, so I don't even know that I would have a band that I would list in there.
Wait a minute, so you played it, you liked it, but you didn't know the names of anyone?
It was mixtapes that we got from friends.
Yeah, I didn't like it enough to have a favorite. I don't know. I guess you'd count Alice in Chains as heavy metal, so that would probably be my favorite heavy metal band.
Okay.
That's respectable.
But yeah, I was never really into it enough to compare this band to that band to this. Like I had songs that I liked and shit, but no, I basically I saw it as an easy path towards getting laid. Being in a band, it wasn't, but that's what I thought it was. So that was sort of my motivation more than a love of music.
Okay, so Alice, you liked Alice in Chains. Is that the same as Jesus and Mary? Wasn't that a group called Jesus and Mary Chain or something?
Definitely a different band, but I'm not sure.
Is that a name? Did I get that right? Wasn't there Jesus and Mary Chain?
I don't know, Joe. You have Google.
I'm asking Noah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm even for the genres I liked, I'm the wrong guy to ask when it comes to music.
All right, gentlemen, how about this? Can you share with me your thoughts on the Billboard's year-end 100 singles of 2000? This is their top 5. Number 1, Breathe by Faith Hill.
Just breathe.
Number 2, Smooth by Santana featuring Rob Thomas. Maria Maria, again by Santana featuring the product G&B. What the hell is that?
I don't know, but Maria, Maria, you remind me of a West Side Story. Yeah. Okay.
I Want to Know was number 4.
I don't know that one, but I want to know.
It's by Joe, and I had nothing to do with it.
That line of that table is just made for puns from this podcast specifically.
Everything You Want in number 5.
So many Final Fantasy themed machinima music videos were made using that song.
By Vertical Horizon. I have heard of Faith Hill, never heard of his songs. I've heard of Santana, don't really know his stuff. I don't know what the product G&B is, but it's featuring them, so I assume that's a group. I should know Joe since he's got my name, but I don't. And I never heard of Vertical Horizon. Noah, any help here?
Only one of those songs that I think I could pick out of a lineup is Smooth. I don't think I know any of the other 4. So
Was Smooth just instrumental, or was there lyrics?
There were
had lyrics.
Yeah, I was gonna say either it was lyrical or I'm thinking of the wrong song, which is entirely possible too.
So Everything You Want was she's everything you want, she's everything you need, and I forget all the words, but like I said, there was a lot of, you know what machinima is? Noah, you might know it.
No.
Joe, you don't know it.
Definitely not.
It's when you use like a video game as a canvas for a music video.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
A lot of Final Fantasy VIII music videos using Everything You Want. Very specific. It's weird.
Final Fantasy VIII as in ATE?
No, Joe, the number.
Part 8.
Ah, okay. Just to be clear. And finally, from Entertainment Weekly, headline, George.
NSYNC tops the list of 2000's best-selling albums. Teen pop, hip-hop, and veteran rockers all make their mark in a surprising year.
And here are those albums. NSYNC, No Strings Attached, which sold 9.94 million copies. Go ahead, George, sing it.
No.
Okay.
It's a whole
Because
album.
that's an album.
Yeah, it would take a minute.
I know. Is No Strings Attached not the song on the album, or that's just...
I don't know, Joe.
Okay.
Again, you keep asking questions after these things to two people
I have
who
to ask
have
questions
no
for me
idea.
to find out. How am I going to find out if I don't ask?
Google.
You have children. You must understand these things. How about you, Noah? You never heard of any of the songs on NSYNC's No Strings Attached?
I'm sure that like there are songs that you could play where I'd be like, oh yeah, no, I've heard that, but like not that I was aware of.
Okay, and number 2 was Eminem's The Marshall Mathers LP. That sold 7.82 million copies.
George had a copy of that, right? George,
I did not have a copy of that.
No, okay.
But
All right.
the earliest songs that I recognize from Eminem are off that album.
Well, you only bought rappers who are white, right? That was
No,
the thing?
that is not correct.
You bought like, oh, Eminem, it's a white man music. I can enjoy this.
I was listening to Dr. Dre and Criss Cross way before Eminem released an
You
album.
get so pissed when I say this to him. I get so mad.
I've never seen anybody try to whip out crisscross cred like that, George. That's new one for me. That's well done.
I needed that to establish the timeline.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the first album I ever owned might have been Fat Boys, but I don't. I've owned like. This is honest truth. I've owned like something like 13 albums in my entire life. So
My God, Fat Boys. Gee whiz.
yeah.
You know God, that's going back.
I think that's probably the only rap album I ever owned. But
They're both dead now, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah.
Was it Heart Attacks? That would be poetic.
Probably. That's not even a joke. Probably was Heart Attacks. They were in a
Yeah, actually.
They were in a movie with who was the older guy in the Eddie Murphy film Trading Places?
Wasn't that just Eddie Murphy wearing an old person mask like he was in all of his freaking movies?
Not in Trading Places. Well, folks, you can write in and remind me. And no, I will not Google, George.
Yeah, not Google, George.
And number 3, Britney Spears. Oops, I Did It Again, which sold 7.89 million copies.
Mostly because there was a picture of Britney Spears dressed like a schoolgirl on the cover.
Yes.
I mean, we had the internet by then, right? We could have just got the picture if we just wanted the picture. Let's be honest. I had a niece that was like 13 at this time, and so I was very aware of Britney Spears right around then.
Oh, good. So you can tell me if you also heard these really creepy discussions about Britney Spears and when she's going to lose her virginity.
Let's not rehash that.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'm not reacting. I'm just really saying, like, do you know that comment?
I remember those creepy ass discussions. Yeah, so yeah.
Yes, there was a pretty girl in the media that was underage. Yes, there was a discussion everywhere always about somebody that they couldn't wait until she was legal.
Well, no, that's just the thing. In fact, Mark Maron even had a joke about it, I remember. I won't tell it because I won't do it service. But he said, no, somebody did like, oh, we're just waiting for her to be of age. Just waiting for her to be of age. It's really fucking awful. Really creepy.
Yep.
I'm glad we don't have that anymore. Anyway, number 4, Creed, their album Human Clay, which sold 6.59 million copies. Isn't Creed a Christian band?
Kinda.
Are they?
I owned that album.
Oh, okay.
We finally got one.
Finally got one.
No, Joe, have you owned any of the albums that we've talked about up till now?
Good question. No, I have not.
Okay, so this is the first one that any of us had. So
Joe, have you owned albums?
I have owned albums. I've owned CDs.
Okay. Yeah, I had that CD.
I did not have that CD. No, NSYNC.
All right, moving on.
Britney Spears.
I don't want to
Creed.
think about Creed anymore.
we're reminding George of days he'd rather leave in the past.
Along with my tattoo and speaking in tongues. Yeah, let's keep going.
And number 5, Santana with Supernatural, selling 5.86 million copies. Good old Santana.
Yep.
He is still around. I guess all these people are still around making music, I think. And maybe Creed isn't. I don't know. Don't know. Anyway, George, tell us about High Fidelity.
Okay. This was directed by Stephen Frears, who also directed My Beautiful Laundrette from 1985 that we saw like 3 episodes ago.
Uh-huh.
This was based on the 1995 book High Fidelity by Nick Hornby. And originally it was set in London. Hornby was pleased at how faithful the film adaptation was.
I read the book and it is very faithful. Have either of you read it?
No.
No.
It's actually pretty good.
The screenplay is by D.V. Census, Steve Pink, thank you, Steve, for having an easy name, John Cusack, and Scott Rosenberg.
Of his works, I know D.V. DeVincentis for Grosse Point Blank, which also starred John Cusack. He was also an actor in Blade and the TV show Crime Story. Steve Pink was the director of Hot Tub Time Machine and Hot Tub Time Machine 2. He was also a writer on Grosse Point Blank.
I haven't seen any of those, but the fact that there was a sequel says something really horrible about the world that we live in.
It really does, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how well Hot Tub Time Machine stands up, but I remember enjoying it at the time. Hell, I saw both pictures.
You know what that means, Joe?
No, it doesn't mean that, George. It doesn't mean it goes on the list. It really doesn't.
It does.
Adam Scott
absolutely does. I'm doing Greenberg. It right now.
He's getting a revenge on me because I made him do the Jackson 5 joke. And of Scott Greenberg's writing, I know him from Venom and Jumanji. He also made appearances in Me, Myself, and Irene, and There's Something About Mary. So apparently these guys wrote and they occasionally acted. Cool.
So this was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical for John Cusack. Okay. I guess they count how many minutes you can talk to a camera.
It does count. He was
Well, I mean, he was soaking wet for a lot of that. It's probably hard to act when you're that wet.
Fair. And for the Grammys, this was nominated for Best Compilation Soundtrack Album for a Motion Picture, Television, or Other Visual Media. And I'd like to say that I agree with it, but I couldn't hear the music because John Cusack was talking the whole time.
I was honestly like, this is one of the easiest possible movies to have an incredible soundtrack for. I thought the soundtrack was great, but yeah, like, you know, seems like the low-hanging fruit of the awards for it.
Yep. Blurbs, IMDb says, Rob, a record store owner and compulsive list maker, recounts his top 5 breakups, including the one in progress.
Okay.
All right. I mean, that gets the movie started. Amazon says, and owner of a failing Chicago record store is forced to evaluate his troubled love life after his longtime girlfriend leaves him.
I think that nails it.
Yeah, that is one of the best summary, blurbs for just getting it out there. Characters. We will, as has been the habit lately, start with 2 big ones and then pepper the rest in later. Rob Gordon. There's a demotivator poster that says the only consistent feature in all of your failed relationships is you. That's Rob. We will live just outside of in his head for the entire film as he analyzes, deconstructs, blames, fumes, posits, and lists 5 of whatever he's thinking about at any given moment. Played by John Cusack.
For this podcast, we've seen John Cusack in Stand By Me, episode 58, and Better Off Dead, episode 96.
Featuring me.
Featuring Noah, yeah.
Featuring Noah, yes.
Our subject matter expert on John Cusack. Then we have Laura. She's a lawyer. The first scene in the film is her leaving Rob. Kit says that her bangs are too short.
They are. Thank you, Kit. That drove me nuts the whole fucking time. I was just like, just do something with that. Just brush it to the side then. Or something. Feather it.
She is going to be delighted that you said that. Played by Ibn Hieli. That's as good as I'm going to be able to do on that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, why not? This is the only thing I've ever seen this woman in.
Okay.
She's Danish. I think this was her first American film.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So, we open to Rob listening to You're Gonna Miss Me by 13th Floor Elevators and Erickson, while Rob gets right down to breaking the fourth wall to wonder out loud if Gen X is miserable because of the music they listen to, or if they listen to miserable music because they were already miserable. Laura unplugs his headphones so that she can finish leaving him with him aware of that for some reason. Like he was facing away from the rest of the apartment. She could have grabbed her bags and left and avoided any of the whining that she must have known was about to happen.
But then we wouldn't have much of a movie.
No, fair. But then he starts immediately going like, well, why don't you stay? And it's like, she's probably like, well, probably because like during the middle of our breakup, you plugged in your headphones and started making top 5 lists to a camera that isn't there. Like, come on, what do you want from me?
As she walks to the front door, he begs her to stay just one more night, or for just the tip, 5 more minutes or whatever.
Oh, gee whiz. Is that your move, George?
No, Joe. I initiated my last breakup, Joe.
That doesn't mean you could have used that line.
And I found someone else, Joe. He slams the door after her, then launches into his desert island all-time top 5 breakups. Because we can't just assume that he's got baggage. He needs to unpack it for us. Before he does, he spends a solid minute trying to convince himself that he's not suffering a proper heartbreak right now, even yelling out the window,
"If you really wanted to mess me up, you should have got to me earlier!"
Now, it's one thing for a breakup to hurt. It's another to think that the goal of your now ex leaving is explicitly to mess you up.
Yeah. The thing about John Cusack is there's something about him getting broke up with that we obviously love. Right? Like, he's been broken up with in more movies probably than any other. It's like Tom Cruise and holstering space guns, right? For whatever reason, every freaking movie he winds up getting broken up with and usually yelling in the rain at some point or whatever. I am the John Cusack expert of the show, obviously.
Yes, you are. That's why we're listening intently.
Yeah. But that's just the thing is that, like, so much of this now from sort of the modern lens, you look at it and you're just like, this is terrible stuff. Like, okay, we're always looking at it from the man's perspective in these movies, but that's like, this is terrible for Laura, this poor woman, and she's just, we'll find out later that she's got all kind of reasonable reasons to want to leave this guy and everything, and she's just getting screamed at and abused and everything. So, yeah, I think that this whole genre, like, there's a lot about it that from a modern perspective is problematic in that way.
I'm glad you said that, Noah, because that's exactly where I was going to cut in. It was one thing for him to yell that out the window, which is, messed up, whatever, but it would have made the film so much better if she turned around. You think you got messed up? What about me? If Laura says, if she just responded to him with something other than, I'm just getting in my car and drive away. Too much of the film, and obviously it's from his point of view, but they could have added this. Give her something more to do.
Yes.
To respond to why she had to put up with this guy's bullshit. And what is it about her that she was even attracted to him? And in fact, look, what do you think of John Cusack's looks? He's pulling some really nice-looking ladies that I find hard to believe. It's almost like the Jerry Seinfeld thing all over again. Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld's an okay-looking guy, but that TV show, those women were fantastic. There's no way he's getting women who look like that. And George especially.
You okay there, man?
You mean the character in Seinfeld, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm talking about the TV show.
Because your co-host is also named George and has a girl that even George thinks is way out of his league.
No. I'm talking about George on the show Seinfeld and Seinfeld on the show Seinfeld.
Okay.
Not everything is about you, George.
Things involving the name George tend to be when I'm on the call. Anyway. Now he starts unpacking those all-time breakups, starting with Allison Ashmore. This was in middle school. They'd been making out under the bleachers after school for 2 weeks. Rob shows up one day and finds her making out with another dude. As an adult, sure, that's silly to be holding on to. Teenage boys, though, have no frames of reference and can catastrophize everything. We'll see these all-time exes later, but not Allison. Allison Junior High is played by Shannon Stillo.
This is her only film.
I don't blame her. And it's not her fault.
It's not like if she had done a better job, this film would have been saved. I'm with you.
Right. He says that all the following stories are scrambled versions of that one, which is unfairly reductive to both himself and the other people in those stories. Then there's Penny Hardwick, who he dated in high school. He mentions she was great looking and then lists her top 5 recording artists, which was deeper than I ever expected him to get. Then we watch him repeatedly try to touch her in places that she explicitly doesn't want him to touch her. This was a really, really uncomfortable scene to watch.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get better when they break up. He breaks up with her for not putting out. Why she was into him to begin with is beyond me. This actually upsets her more for the fact of the breakup than for the reasoning. Like, she gets sad immediately instead of getting mad and kicking him in the balls first.
Which would have been nice. And once again, the movie is focused sort of on, it seems like on the wrong thing, right? Because he's never going to, like, learn his lesson that was, like, problematic or anything. We're just like, yeah, poor guy, his high school girlfriend wouldn't put out.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm actually going to defend this scene, not because of the behavior, obviously, of him in it, but the fact that it existed all in the picture. I don't know what your high school experiences was, guys, but people like this, I certainly knew who definitely, if the girl wasn't pitting out, was breaking up with her.
No, that's fair. But if you want me to sympathize with this character, that's a little rough. I think a little rougher now than it was in the year 2000.
Oh, I definitely no sympathy.
Yeah, I'm not saying at all that this is not believable.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should be in more pictures, because that literally does happen to girls all the time. Say, oh, I like this boy, and we just kiss up, and I don't want to do anything else with him. And you go, I'm breaking up, you're not going to do anything else. And the girl's really upset about it and hurt. And the boy's like, I don't care. She didn't do anything. Like,
Right. What should be happening is there should be consequences for that, or at least a learning moment. And even later in the movie, when he has an opportunity to have that learning moment, he takes the absolute wrong lesson away from it.
No, he learns nothing from it.
No, that's correct, yeah.
Penny Hardwick is played by Joelle Carter.
This is her only movie I'm familiar with.
And I know I saw American Pie 2, I just don't remember anything about it.
And she was in that.
Yep.
Okay.
We take a break from the memory lane that his exes live on to talk about his record store, Championship Vinyl, because those two words go together. He talks about how he's barely scraping by. The least believable thing to me is that all of the fluorescent overhead lighting works.
No, that's actually a good point for a guy who's basically broke, because no one really comes in the store, and when they do, they're insulted. I assume we'll get into that. Yeah, he really doesn't seem to be suffering that much.
Nope.
And that store is pretty well put together. It's not even particularly, it's pretty large, too. He even has a little private office in the back.
We meet one of his employees, Dick. We meet one of his employees named Dick. Otherwise, that sounds like we met one of his employees' dick. At first, I thought...
Be glad that joke is not in this movie.
Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that they named a character Dick and there are no dick jokes in the movie.
None.
At first, I thought Dick was a lonely, awkward, too bald for his age vinyl fanboy who goes out of his way to find and tape hard-to-find records for Rob, who is a dismissive asshole and not a good friend in return. Nope, he just works for him.
Yep.
Dick is played by Todd Luiso.
For this podcast, we last saw Todd in Jerry Maguire, episode 55.
Oh, he was the babysitter, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Which I completely forgot until I saw IMDb.
Right. No, I did. I had that sort of like, well, I kind of know this guy from something feeling the whole time.
And again, I'll reiterate, that seems to be IMDb's purpose on Earth, is to make us go, oh, that guy.
Yep.
In walks Barry Judd, Rob's other employee. Barry, in my headcanon, becomes Dewey Finn in School of Rock, which is episode 109, because Barry was written for and is played by Jack Black.
Who is more obnoxious and would justify being punched in the face more, Barry or Randall from Clerks?
Randall.
Ooh, yeah, it is Randall, but yeah, no, it's a good question, though.
It's a close one, but it's Randall.
That whole scene of what Barry does to that this middle-aged guy who comes in looking for an album, which God forbid Barry doesn't approve of, reminded me of it. How do I put this?
Who hurt you, Joe?
It doesn't remind me of anything that happened to me personally, but it does remind me of so many white guys who think this is very funny to be insulting the people who come into the stores or whatever. And I do mean white guys. I never see anyone else do it. Now, granted, this is a character, but in real life, I've seen this. And it reminded me of this Asian comedian. I don't remember the comic's name. If I did, I would name him. But anyway, he posted about the whole Me Too thing and like, oh, these guys are all assholes and everything. And she posted to him, she said, well, you don't remember how you treated me. And he goes like, what? And apparently he was like really rude and tried to be like these guys are. Oh, I'm just so funny, isn't it? That I'm a comedian, you're a comedian, so I'm going to do this bullshit to you and say all these things to you. But she's never met him. She didn't know him. So, like, it doesn't come off as funny or abusive. It comes off as an abusive asshole. So that's what it reminded me of.
Okay.
Sorry, I just brought everything to a screeching halt. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's why we have a script.
That I can frequently go off of. Because that was not in the script.
I can't fire them. I hired these guys for 3 days a week, and they just started showing up every day. That was 4 years ago.
I have questions about how that works from a payroll perspective.
Right?
Like, are they working 5 to 7 days a week, whatever every day means, and getting paid for only 3? Or is he paying them for all the work they do that he didn't budget for and, from 2 blurbs describing his store as failing, can't afford?
Do you really think he's not paying them? No. He's absolutely not paying them.
Then you have to start wondering, like, is Dick selling drugs out of the back? Or, like, how are these guys making their livings and all of that kind of stuff? But, like, that's, I don't know, that whatever the weird white guy movie privilege where we just all assume everybody's got a freaking trust fund or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And on top of that, he is a monstrous asshole.
Mm-hmm.
He has 2 people who love this work willing to bend over backwards for him, and he's lamenting that he can't fire them. After the fluorescent bulbs, the next unbelievable thing is that anyone would keep working for this prick.
Well, the thing is that John Cusack is such a charming actor that they feel like they can get away with, like, oh, it's just John Cusack, so you like him. And in this movie, like, more so than in anything I've ever seen him in, they forget to give you any reason beyond him just being John Cusack to like him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you know, we're supposed to get that, like, normally he's a much nicer guy, and now he's just broken up with his girlfriend, and so he's in the dump or whatever. But we
he's
never
not.
see him. Right? We never see him in any other type of way. And so all we ever see is this guy who's just an abusive prick.
Also, and I don't know, the two employees strike me as guys who have some sort of emotional problems, so they would keep coming back to him.
Yeah.
Yep. We re-enter Rob's list of breakups at number 3, Charlie Nicholson, from his sophomore year in college. She was everything he could want in a woman, and they went out for 2 years. His insecurity made him boring, and eventually she left him for someone in her design department. Charlie is played by Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I've only seen her in Chicago.
I've seen her in a lot.
I wanted to say I saw her in a lot. I haven't. Weird.
Yeah, that's another IMDb special. You go there like, oh, I thought I saw this person in so much more than this.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other one she did with John Cusack? That was a good one. America's Sweethearts. That was a fantastic movie with her and John Cusack.
Never even heard of it.
He stands outside in the rain. Yep. And yells up at her window.
Charlie! You fucking bitch! Let's work it out!
That's one. By the way, everybody drink every time he stands out in the rain.
Okay, like, I know I wrote stuff, but no, you don't start with you fucking bitch and then say, let's work it out. You don't start with the insult and then say, but we can work. Nobody in their right mind, or even most wrong minds, would take someone up on an offer like that.
I'm fairly certain that was meant to be funny.
I think so.
Charlie is no exception. What bothers me is the utter lack of consequences for toxic bullshit. The worst that happens is that he doesn't get what he wants.
Yep.
He never gets something he doesn't want, like a slap, kick to the groin, or a restraining order. It bothers me not because it's unrealistic, but because it's too realistic. He ended up flunking out of school and says he never got over Charlie. He also says she was out of his league. And he may have been right, but not for any social, economic, or even aesthetic reasons.
Although those do play a factor in my mind.
Sure.
Cusack's pretty hot, though. I mean, you know.
He's good. He's good looking enough, but Jesus.
I mean, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah. He was just a garbage human being, full of bitterness and anger, and didn't know that feeling a feeling isn't an excuse to behave a behavior.
And that's another thing, actually. Yes, let's say you think Cusack's a really good guy. That still didn't explain why these women stay. This woman stayed with him 2 years. What was interesting about him? Did you see anything?
Inertia. I'm just going to say inertia.
Yeah.
Once you're in a relationship, sometimes it's just easier to stay in the relationship.
I mean, first, how did he manage to snag him and then have them keep coming back? His personality just doesn't read that way to me. Seems like a guy who, like, okay, maybe he can get them in the bed one time, but then they keep returning.
Yeah, and we'll see it happen in real time later.
Mm-hmm.
His navel gazing is interrupted by Laura calling to ask if she can stop by to pick up a few things. He starts to go off on her, and she hangs up.
Yeah, to be super clear, he doesn't say yes, of course.
Yeah. We watch Barry treat a middle-aged customer like crap until he leaves the store, and he gets a mild scolding from Rob because he's broke. Barry comes back with this.
I'm gonna tell you something for your own good, pal. That's the worst fucking sweater I've ever seen. It's a Cosby sweater. A Cosby sweater.
Rob assaults his employee for that, and we didn't even know what a creep Cosby was in 2000.
Also, the oldest daughter from the Cosby Show is going to be in this in a minute too. So I don't know if that's.
Yep.
I don't know if that was intentional, but.
Nope. Rob goes into the back room to sulk. Dick comes in to check on him, and Rob tells him about the breakup. At home, Rob plays a voicemail from Laura's mother saying to Laura that her father's angina is acting up. He does not immediately call Laura, even at work, to relay that message. He does launch back into his first act list of 5 breakups. And I forgot to do it. From here until it doesn't matter anymore, I wanted to track every time that him and Laura interact that he does not give her that message.
Oh, right.
Because it's an important message and he never gives it to her.
Yeah, no, you're right.
No.
Number 4 is Sandra Kendrew. She had just been dumped too and was just as bitter and lonely as he was. A perfect pairing from his perspective. She is played by Lily Taylor.
Of her movie work, I've seen her in Shortcuts and I Shot Andy Warhol, but I first saw her on TV in 6 Feet Under.
They were in it together because they were both afraid to be alone. They were in a relationship because they were afraid to not be in a relationship. That's like a tautology of a relationship. It's a fallacious basis for a relationship. When that ultimately proves itself to be true, he kicks a wall and yells as he leaves her apartment. And nobody calls the cops on him.
And once again, it's consequenceless for him. He never learns that that's problematic behavior at any point in the movie.
Nope. His reminiscing is interrupted by Dick to invite him out to...
What?
His reminiscing is interrupted by Dick.
You're such a child.
I am. I have to make all the Dick jokes that this movie failed to make with that name.
Clearly.
His reminiscing is interrupted by his employee, Dick, to invite him out.
By his employees, Dick?
No, I enunciated the word very carefully on purpose, Joe.
By the man Dick. The man Dick? No.
His reminiscing is interrupted by Richard, his employee. I'm leaving that take in, so everybody's just going to wonder why the hell we're laughing. To invite him out to a club along with Barry to see local musician Marie DeSalle. Dick describes her, so I don't have to.
I like her. She's kind of Sheryl Crow-ish, crossed with a post-Partridge Family, pre-LA Law, Susan Day kind of thing. But, you know, black.
Black is always funny when it comes after I don't know why.
Quite frankly, I'm glad that they acknowledge that black people exist. I'm, because up until this point, they really weren't.
There are a couple in the film.
Some background, maybe.
In Chicago.
Yeah, I was going to say, with speaking lines? I mean, there's her and there's the one customer once. But yeah, that's the only ones I can think of.
Well, you know, there aren't that many black people in Chicago. Chicago it's very light on the black.
Yeah, notoriously so, yeah.
She will be played by Lisa Bonet.
The only thing I've seen her in besides the Cosby Show A Different World was Angel Heart.
Oh, I saw Angel Heart too.
Yes, that was I don't know how well that movie stands up.
No kidding. Do we just wind up putting that on the list? Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
I haven't said I liked it or not, so George doesn't know. If I said I hated it, they'd go right on the list.
But you asked the conceit question of our podcast.
Right, yeah, no, exactly.
Rob's interrupted again, this time by a phone call from his mother. His mother makes his breakup about her. Now we know why he hadn't learned any lessons about relationships in his youth. He didn't have anybody that could teach him. On his way to the club, we get this.
John Dillinger was shot dead behind that theater in a hail of FBI gunfire. Do you know who tipped him off? His fucking girlfriend.
First, that's not true. It was his landlady. Thank you, IMDb. Second, that sounds like an incel talking point.
Yeah, it sure does.
Well, I mean, with maybe the exception of Dick, both at least the Jack Black character and John Cusack, I am pretty sure would today be Trumpers raiding the Capitol.
Yeah.
At Lounge X, which we know from Joe's History Corner would close later that year, Rob has his opinion of Peter Frampton's Baby I Love Your Way lifted by Marie DeSalle's cover of it. The boys get to talk to her afterwards, and Rob is, for reasons unknown to me or Barry, upset that Barry tells her about the record store.
Yeah, what was... Yeah, no idea.
He's very modest.
Yeah, that's modesty.
Yeah, his
virtue.
modesty was quite a theme in this film, yeah.
At home, he gets a voicemail from his friend Liz, played by his sister, Joan Cusack.
Joan Cusack was in an unaired episode we did. She was in Working Girl, and she was in an aired episode with Jack Black in School of Rock, episode 109.
She was also in Toys, 1992, that I recently put on the list, and was the voice of Jessie in Toy Story 2, which came out a year before this film, which throws my entire chronological understanding of life into chaos. She also turned out to be Aaron's mom in The Office.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh, I didn't realize she was in Toys. I saw that as well. Terrible movie.
You
ever seen Toys, Noah?
Yeah. I recall it being pretty awful.
In the morning, Laura returns to gather more of her things and is mildly surprised to find Rob there, having taken the morning off. He uses this as an opportunity to try arguing their relationship back to life. It goes as well as it can for, being only a quarter of the way through the movie. This movie took forever when it started.
It really should be shorter.
At the store, after a discussion about side ones and mild abuse of another customer, Rob calls Liz back, and she lets slip that Laura is now with some Ian guy. Before he can interrogate that idea, Marie DeSalle shows up in the store, so he goes and greets her, then goes back to the back room to start freaking out about Laura being with someone else.
Yes, because, ownership of a woman.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, see, here's something that he really should have been called on. Laura, when they have a discussion about it, she's actually pretty cool with him acting like this. Instead of like saying, we broke up. What do you care what I'm doing to this other guy?
Right.
We're not together anymore. I'm not cheating on you, for God's sake. We've broken up.
Right.
I've moved on. Maybe you should too.
But the entire movie, including Laura's character, acts like there's something reasonable about him still taking some ownership of her, sexual being after they've broken up.
Oh, yeah.
And again, there's never a lesson learned there.
After work, he goes home and finds a letter in the building foyer addressed to Mr. I. Raymond, who lived upstairs from him until about 6 weeks ago and who used to have marathon bouts of loud sex that he and Laura could hear. Laura even comments on his apparent stamina, a memory that Rob really didn't need right at that moment. That memory ignites a rough night of imagination for Rob.
You are as abandoned and noisy as any character in a porn film, Laura. You are Ian's plaything, responding to his touch with shrieks of orgasmic delight. No woman in the history of the world is having better sex than the sex you are having with Ian in my head.
That was fun. Because Tim Robbins is funny. Just watching Tim Robbins' chubby, goofy face in that scene was hilarious. Because Ian Raymond is played by Tim Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen Tim Robbins in The Shawshank Redemption. Talk about funny movie for episode 9. And Top Gun, another hilarious film, for episode 130.
He was in Howard the Duck and the President in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
He was in Howard the Duck, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. In the morning, Rob admits to the audience that whoever he'd had in spot 5 of his all-time breakup list was only there so he didn't have to admit that his breakup with Laura was driving him up the wall. At work, he's brooding when Liz storms in and calls him an asshole. We go to a piano bar. He recounts how he and Laura met when she was a legal aid lawyer and he was a DJ. Then he tells us that Liz is right. He is an asshole, and lets us know what Laura probably told Liz for her to conclude that. 1. Rob cheated on her while she was pregnant. 2. That affair was why she got the abortion. 3. Afterwards, he borrowed a few grand from her and hasn't paid it back. And 4, shortly before they broke up, he told Laura that he was unhappy and looking for someone else. And fuck the writers for not coming up with a 5th one for that list.
Right? Thank you. What a missed opportunity.
Keep on your own damn theme. Jeez.
Also, the affair is why she got the abortion and not the fact that she's dating this asshole? I mean, if he didn't have an affair, are we to believe she would have gone through with the birth? Because I don't think that would have been a good idea. I don't think either one of these people should be parents.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and then again, we're never really going to address that. He's never really going to, make up for any of this stuff. He writes off the money that she lent him that he never pays back as well, she insisted on giving it to me and I just couldn't pay her back because I've never had it to pay her back. And I'm like, then you just took money from her, man. She's also supporting you financially. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You guys do your own relationship or whatever, but admit that's what's going on at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the reason the mother likes her so much, like Laura, and was so upset about them breaking up.
Right.
Just because Laura is basically the only adult in the relationship.
Yeah.
And his mom knew it.
Clearly.
The next scene is how he's not really that much of an asshole because there were mitigating circumstances for everything. First, he didn't know she was pregnant when he cheated. It was well after the affair was revealed and moved past that she told him about the pregnancy and abortion. As for the money, he had every intention of paying her back, but he's broke, so he hasn't. Whatever. Even with the excuses, he is still an asshole.
Yep.
And that's pretty much Act 1. The acts get, exponentially shorter. It's funny. As far as amount of words it takes to describe them. Act 2 is Rob trying to track down the other top 4 to do something of a postmortem on them. First he tries Allison, but he can only get her mom. It turns out she is now happily married with children to the guy he found her making out on the bleachers with.
What are the odds?
Yeah. He's encouraged to continue his quixotic quest by a homunculus of Bruce Springsteen, played by Bruce Springsteen, in his head.
Also, you don't get into it, but he's like, he thinks that somehow lets him off the hook because I didn't quite understand. Why is he so pleased that this girl might have marrying the guy? I don't even want to call it cheating because they were all in school when this was happening. But whatever, she winds up marrying that guy. And how does that make him better?
Well, it doesn't make him better. It means that he doesn't have to think about it anymore because she is completely off the market.
Ah.
Is that it?
As far as I understand it, that is what he's thinking.
Ah, okay.
Next is Penny. They have a nice movie date and do some catching up. I think Penny would be a good guest on the podcast. At a restaurant, Rob brings up how she had sex with the next guy after her when she didn't want to have sex with him. He did not at all consider the damage that he did to her understanding of how boys behave and what their expectations of her would be. Her telling even includes her gaslighting herself into thinking she wasn't raped by that guy.
Yeah. That was a difficult part of the fucking movie. And again, it was the closest he ever came to growth, but I don't think he ever refers back to it or makes any real change from that. I thought that was like maybe the most interesting and human moment of the entire movie. And the movie's like, what about that? And then it just moves on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you talk about the 80s, but I think this is very much a 2000 thing. Like, well, I said yes, so it really wasn't rape, but it felt like rape. I mean, that is definitely a conversation that was had quite often with a lot of men and women in the 2000s. Mm-hmm. Like, well, you did say yes. And well, I still felt pressured.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And the implication of the film is that because of the way John Cusack behaved when he broke up with her, she felt as though she had no choice. So he's almost like, he's indirectly implicated in her rape in this way. And again, like the movie's just like, what about that?
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Moving on.
Well, the really disgusting part of it is that the character doesn't go like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you, or nothing.
No.
He's not feel sorry for her whatsoever.
What he does is he goes like, oh, that's right, I broke up with you, you didn't break up with me, so I guess you don't belong in my heartbreaking breakups list anymore. We're not concerned with your feelings. This movie's about me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rob thinks of this as exculpatory and remembers that he initiated the breakup, so he doesn't have to feel bad about it, or whatever. Asshole. Next, he meets with Sarah, who seems like she's in the same place she was when he met her the first time, and who seemed like she was hopeful that he would be too. He feels nothing for her, and I was left feeling really sorry for her. Like, she seemed to be in a really bad spot, and it's not his fault or responsibility to do anything about that, but he doesn't seem to see it at all, which reads to me like sociopathy.
Right, no, he walks away from that engagement like patting himself on the back.
He might as well have jumped up and clicked his heels together.
Right. No, actually, it's even worse than that because he's patting himself on the back for not having sex with her, for not taking advantage of her depression or whatever, and using it as an opportunity to wrangle a sexual favor or two out of him. He's like, yeah, see what a great guy I am.
And she stands in that doorway for a while and looks devastated.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they were thinking when they made this film. I really don't.
I think they were thinking of men and the 2000s,
yeah.
which what a lot of guys are like.
At the same time, if you don't identify with him, all the things we're getting mad about are things that we should get mad about. And that the characters got mad about, just all the characters around him got mad about it, and he didn't. It's weird, Joe. It's weird.
Let's be clear. We're being upset about something 23 years after the fact.
Fair.
No, exactly. And I think Joe's exactly right here. This really is like, this movie is meant to be, guys like John Cusack's character. This is a movie for them. This is a movie for whom women were a conquest, and a sad, depressed girl right after a breakup was an opportunity for a sexual favor. I think that's exactly it. I don't think that the movie itself has the moral compass required to say that there's something wrong with that.
And the subtext here throughout all of this is that he can't be friends with these women. He didn't have to sleep with her. He could have said, "Hey, call me. We can talk. We can hang out.
Right.
We just be boyfriend and girlfriend." Heaven forbid he just be friends with this woman.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really fucking good point, Joe.
And nowhere in this film does it ever thought that men and women can just be friends. What was that plot point? What movie was that? Where Harry met Sally? Remember, that was the premise of that film. Can a man and woman really be friends? Yes! Of course they can! What a stupid premise for a movie!
To criticize myself a little bit, When I said it's not his fault or responsibility to do anything about it, I wasn't even counting that they could just be friends.
Yeah.
But then again, I was also describing this movie.
Yeah, right.
So I guess it wasn't really an option. He calls Charlie and leaves a message that he explicitly doesn't expect to have returned. At the store, business is suddenly thriving. I have no idea why.
Right.
In the throng of customers is a potential love interest for Dick. That's nice. Anna Moss is played by Sarah Gilbert, or Darlene from Roseanne.
We all know her as Darlene from Roseanne, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Also, like, she looks, I don't know what age she was in this movie, but she looks like she's 15, and Dick looks like he's 31, and it's just, there's something real uncomfortable. I would love for them to explicitly state her age or show us her ID at something, or some point or something.
That's fair.
No, it is true. He does look really older than her. Although I think they're probably roughly the same age.
I think they're supposed to be in the movie, and they probably were in real life. But yeah, that's just that does not come across right away. And at first, I'm like, "Ooh, Dick's hitting on a high schooler. That's not great. That's not super good."
Mind you, if she was a high schooler, I'm not sure this film would have objected.
Yeah, honestly.
Or many of the pictures George and I have seen over the years. They would have objected if it was a high schooler.
Nope.
In fact, I don't think I can think of one film in which it was a young girl and the guy says no. He always says yes.
Great show we have here, Joe.
We didn't make the movies. Don't blame me. We didn't make American culture for the last 20 to 30 years.
All right.
You looking for another guy to watch Christian movies for every week, Noah? Torture myself that way?
No. I couldn't have picked that on somebody else. No, I've done that enough.
A couple of skateboard punks try lifting some merch and get spotted. Rob chases them down and holds a skateboard hostage until they give up what they'd try to steal, which includes a magazine about home recording.
Does this man not have insurance?
Good question, Joe.
You're really not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to go chasing after
probably not.
people. You go like, hey, all right, they took some out of my store. I'm insured. The insurance will take care of it. You go, there's no telling what could happen to you if you do something like that.
They'll show up again later, so we'll introduce Vince and Justin, played by Chris Rannon and Ben Carr, whom we either don't know from anything or they haven't really done anything. Those are the two options there.
Yep.
At closing time, Laura shows up and offers Rob a ride home. Inside, she seems to be not totally sure if she wants to leave or stay. Rob stays one plank length above Dumb and Dumber's "so you're telling me there's a chance" in his questioning. His takeaway is happiness that Laura has apparently not actually slept with Ian yet. Then, to his and our surprise, he goes and manages to sleep with Marie DeSalle because, and I can't stress this enough, there are almost never any consequences for men being assholes.
I don't understand what she's even doing in this movie, because we're never gonna, she just disappears after this. So what's the point? Are we supposed to be, is this for so that we can say, well, sure, yeah, Laura had her boyfriend, but at least John Cusack, at least Team Man, got some strange during the breakup too. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, Lisa Bonet is lovely, and her singing in this was just great and everything, but what the hell is this character doing in the film?
I think she was there for exactly what he says. He gets to invent a persona for a moment of a caring, sensitive guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she's there, because she doesn't know him yet, right? So she doesn't know that he's a giant piece of shit. So he gets to pretend that he's not for a minute. And that's the entire point, is that he's not a total asshole all the time about everything, because, really low bars.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, he does get to be a caring, sensitive guy for a minute before his nagging doubts put the word "yet" into the forefront of his mind. Yet, as in she hasn't slept with Ian yet. Laura meets him for drinks and eventually tells him that she's no longer a valid option as a partner because her vagina has had another penis in it. Well, she may as well have, because what happens next is that he starts stalking her against Liz's advice.
Yeah.
He does the repeatedly calling from a payphone outside Ian's place after he gets his number and address from the operator.
And we should point out that it's pouring down rain. So this is yet another him standing outside of her house in the pouring rain. We've had that 3 times already in this movie. And yeah, like in movies, especially of this era, they always treated this like some just charming quirk or whatever, instead of like the creepy ass behavior that happens right before you hear about some woman getting stabbed 57 times, you know?
100%. Yeah. Films like these helped encourage a lot of very bad behavior in a lot of men.
Yeah.
Because it tells you, like, hey, you're still the hero. No, she broke up with you. Don't listen to her.
Right.
Keep going after her. She really loves you.
Right.
Don't believe she's with another guy. And the film also, well, you said it, George, like, oh, so another penis has been in her. The film implies that if she wasn't with another guy, then they're not broken up. I mean, what if she just wanted to be alone for a while to date any guy?
Yeah.
Because that means they're still boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, it makes no sense.
Right.
He ends up getting a call back from Charlie, who just got back from a trip to see an ex who had the gall to try to do one of those, oh, where did we go wrong things. Rob's not going to try and do that, is he? No, of course not, so he's invited to the party. Also, Ian shows up at the store to ask Rob to, stop being a stalker.
Mm-hmm.
We watch 2 or 3 fantasies of physical bodily harm to Ian before he walks out of the store unmolested. Rob attends Charlie's party, during which he comes to some conclusion that Charlie is an awful, boring person that he should have been glad to be rid of. And then after everyone leaves, he starts with the whole ex conversation that Charlie indulges rather than stabbing his eyes out with an ice pick. The takeaway is basically Rob got boring. Okay.
Yeah, no, I get it. I am bored with him by this point in the movie.
The thing I want to point out here, I mean, like, she's like an awful person because she found him bored, but you know what? You do fall out of love with somebody, and after a while, like, are you supposed to stay in a relationship if you're no longer interested in this person?
Right.
People get bored with in a relationship.
Yeah.
I would rather someone just like, okay, I'm breaking up, rather than like, oh God, I'm so tired of seeing your face again. Please just break up with me then. I don't want to stay in this relationship if the very sight of me just bores the hell out of you and you want to stab your eye out.
I don't know why I feel like I have to keep telling this to other men, but you don't want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you.
Yeah.
Fuck yes or no. And as if the movie is trying to tell Rob to get his act together, Dick and Barry start moving on with their lives. Dick and Anna start a legit relationship, with the asterisk of, is she an adult?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a hug and a smile is as far as we know, but it's more than Rob's getting right now. Barry has had a poster up looking for a band for years, and someone comes in to offer him a spot. And this is where it becomes my headcanon. This is Dewey Finn's origin story.
Sure.
Rob comes home and finds Laura already there, reading one of his many top 5 lists. This one, Top 5 Dream Jobs, is mostly things that are impossible due to his lack of credentials or the simple passage of time.
Number 3, any kind of musician.
Besides classical or rap.
Racist.
Didn't you also have that list, George? It said it had to be no Western.
Yeah, it was no country or rap.
No
Yeah.
country or rap.
Yep. That was my childhood. Well, that was my teenagerhood. My childhood had plenty of rap. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, because I liked rap. I think I was literally just being a performative racist, which is, I'm not sure any better than being an actual racist.
No.
I don't even know if it's any different than being an actual racist. Really.
No,
It's like being a racist, but not having the balls to admit it. Okay. Not better. She obviously still cares about him, even as she has the last of her things packed by the door, which she takes them and then walks through.
That's the first time, as near as we can tell, that she's seen this list of all of his would-be jobs. And of course, what he has listed is the most absurd things. He would be like, what, a writer for Rolling Stone in the 1970s or something? Stuff before he was either born or he was just a child.
Yeah,
He could never have
he
done
has
them.
like decade qualifiers on jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird that they never had that discussion, because their relationship has been at least, 6 years or something?
Something.
So how did this has never come up? And she's never pointed out to him, well, how come being a record store person isn't on your list, since that's what you do? That's literally what you are.
Mm-hmm.
This is also was in the book. And it's weird that that's, for a couple, they don't seem to talk about a lot. I don't know how that can come up in the discussion at some point, especially the way he likes to make lists.
Well, it doesn't come up in the discussion, and that's part of what leads to their breakup. Now Rob goes to walk on a bridge and give us the top 5 things that he misses about Laura. Okay, now he's finally starting to be less of an asshole. Back at the store, it turns out that the 2 thieving miscreants from earlier have created a demo tape, calling themselves the Kinky Wizards. What's more, by the standards of this movie at least, they're good. So good, in fact, that Rob decides to start a record label, Top 5 Records, because of course.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately after that, he gets a tearful phone call from Laura because her dad died. Her mom is asking him to come to the funeral because her dad liked him. In fact, with his heart sucking like it did, their breakup killed him. Just kidding. They didn't even tell him about the breakup because they were afraid that would happen.
It's honestly, it's so like Deus Ex Machina that she might as well call him and tell him that Act 2 died, right? Like, she's just like, oh, it's time for reconciliation. We should move on.
Although I have to say, I appreciate that there was some sort of event that brought them together because after all, the parents knew each other. They've been together for a long time. What would have made, for me, this film much stronger if we seen her point of view from the breakup and his point of view from the breakup. And then, and he doesn't do any of the stalking bullshit, anything. And then she calls him when her dad dies. Because that seems to me something realistic. So my father's died. I'm going to lean on the person that I was with during the time I was, my parents liked him. And then she would call him to defend the funeral. That seems to me makes sense.
Right, and to the extent that this movie has a point, I think that's the point, right? That, he's always putting his life on hold with the idea that there's some perfect girl on the horizon or whatever, but what you actually need in a hard time, when your dad dies or whatever, is you need that familiarity, you need that relationship and everything. And to the extent that the movie has, like, a message, I think that's the message, and this is the closest it ever gets to, like, telling that in a meaningful way or explaining that in a meaningful way. I agree.
Yeah.
Because that is ultimately the important thing about a relationship is not the sex or the...
Keep telling yourself that, Joe, while you're not having it.
Or the sex or the other bullshit, but the main thing is like someone who, when your family dies, this is the person you can lean on. When something really important happens in your life, this is the person you turn to. That's the important part of the relationship.
Yeah.
Somebody who will always care what's happening with you. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
Somebody who will always be on your side of things. Yeah.
I'm going to be an adult and ignore George's insult.
Okay.
You're going to abstain from saying anything about it? Is that what you're going to do?
Oh, is it two of you, huh? All right. All right.
Well, now that I know you're not going to hit back, I mean, I might as well.
The funeral is a funeral. The funeral after party is a funeral after party. Rob is still in his own head about Laura, so he says his goodbyes in Amscrees. In the rain.
In the rain, yep.
Of course, to wait at a bus stop. Laura leaves too and goes looking for him. She spots him trying to hide from her in someone's garden and tells him to get in the car.
Okay, so obviously, fourth time that he's been out in the rain in this movie, but also, like, this character literally just made her dad's funeral about him, right? That's how arrogant this character is.
Well, to be fair, he didn't. Him was about him in his head, and he left the funeral so that he wouldn't be doing that.
Well, that's fair. Okay. Still an asshole.
Yeah, he's still an asshole. It doesn't make anything about him okay. He made a good decision.
He is an asshole. And Liz, right? That's the friend's name, right? The Joan Cusack character tells him, like, this is about her, not you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
She drives him to a place she says her dad used to take her when she was sad. Then she asks him to have sex because she wants to feel anything but the pain and grief she's feeling in the moment. Rob obliges. And that's not unreasonable.
Sure.
I've actually been that. That happens. It's weird. It's weird that actually happens.
No, like everybody wants to fuck after a funeral, man. That's like everybody wants to be like, let's just shift as far away from this as possible.
This sucks. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
Okay. This leads to them getting back together. She moves back in and everything. Being a lawyer and good at organizing things, she puts together a release party for the Kinky Wizards. It's
like she just shows up at this point and she's like, oh shit, we need to put together a climax, guys, now. We need to set something up to end this movie with.
Well, she's really good at it.
Yeah, clearly.
This drums up some media interest, including a journalist for a music magazine, and the last person we'll be introducing. Her name is Caroline Fortis. She's cute, into music, and just the kind of person who could steal him from Laura. She's played by Natasha Gregson Wagner.
Other movies I know her from are Lost Highway and High School High.
I saw her in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, there you go. I've never seen her in anything.
Rob notices on the posters for the party that Laura has him returning to his DJ roots. This, for reasons I cannot and will not understand, infuriates him. Moreover, Barry's band is going to play a set. so she's taking care of his friends too. He's not into that either. He goes about trying to convince Barry, member of Sonic Death Monkey, as well as the members of Kinky Wizards, whose CD the release party is for, to not show up because he's still, under whatever modicum of growth he's managed, a colossal asshole.
This made so little sense. So what he wanted to happen was for her to do all the work of setting this up and then just no one to show up? None of the acts? None of the music? What was he trying for?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Well, I think for Barry, he was just worried Barry was just going to embarrass all of them.
Well, right, yeah. With Barry, I guess I get it, but yeah. Because he's supposed to be the goofball friend that always screws everything up.
Right. But what the deal was with, because it's supposed to be their show, the Kinky Wizards, why he doesn't want them to show up and just ruin everything for his girlfriend, because that's what would have happened.
Exactly. She would have been embarrassed more than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He does a phone interview / foreplay with Caroline, and she asks him his all-time top 5 records. He decides to make a mixtape as an answer, which is kind of like telling your dreams, right? You give mixtapes to people you want to fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You tell your dreams to people you're fucking.
Yep.
He decides to make a mixtape as an answer, and then it hits him. He's a gigantic scaredy cat piece of human feces who runs from everything and everyone, keeping everyone at arm's length until he does. He's always looking for an out. I think it's the same reason that Ewan McGregor's character gave in Beginners. He can't see it working out, so he makes sure it doesn't. Rob expresses it a little differently.
So what am I going to do now? Just keep jumping from rock to rock for the rest of my life until there aren't any rocks left? Should I bolt every time I get that feeling in my gut when I meet someone new? I've been thinking with my gut since I was 14 years old. And frankly speaking, I've come to the conclusion that my guts have shit for brains.
Finally!
I do wanted to say, Ewan McGregor has way more growth in Beginners than Cusack has in this movie.
That's correct, yes. I have no objection to that. But just because McGregor's character grew more doesn't mean that the reasoning for the growth is all that different.
Fair.
So he meets with Laura in a bar midday to half-heartedly ask her to marry him, seeing the asking of the question as more important than the answer. Laura seems to agree with him on that and is glad he asked. Okay, like if that's, I could see that, all right. Now the movie can relax a bit. We go to the release party, where Rob's DJing is as good as it always was, where the new artists are seeming to be happy, and where Barry and his band can surprise the shit out of everyone by playing Marvin Gaye.
Definitely the high point of the movie was
absolutely
Marvin Gaye. That was really good. Jack Black is just fantastic. I've liked him in everything I've ever seen him in, but he really stole the show here.
Mm-hmm. Literally.
Yeah, he's a really good singer.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, Rob starts a new mixtape. This one is for Laura. Importantly, it is not things that he likes that he wants Laura to hear and like too. He's looking for things that she will like for her reasons in lines with her tastes. And if that's the metaphor for personal growth, I'm actually okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
The end. All right, gentlemen, we'll start with the guest as we usually do.
Yes.
Noah, does this still work? If it ever did.
So that's the important caveat, right? Like, this is one of those movies that I never liked. I saw it once back in the day, not when it came out in theaters, but shortly thereafter. And I didn't really care for it. It kind of bored me. But then, like, years later, every time I heard about it, everybody was always talking about what a great movie it was and how they loved it. And I just kind of pretended to also like it because, everybody who's like I respected their opinion on movies all liked it. So it's like, it must be good, and I just must not be sophisticated enough to understand why or something. But no, it's a movie about a narcissistic asshole that just does narcissistic asshole things from start to finish. It ignores its female characters except for as they relate to his own, personal aggrandizement.
Penis.
Yeah, really. Let's call a dick, yeah. There were a lot of really problematic moments that we've already kind of touched on, but beyond that, I thought it was like a bad story cleverly told, and maybe it's influenced the way that we tell stories, all of the backstory stuff, the breaking the fourth wall, the lists and things like that. I think a lot of that has sort of been adopted by the larger body of screenwriters to the point where it doesn't seem quite as revolutionary as it might have seemed in 2000. And maybe that's a lot of the reason why I can't appreciate it the way those people did back then. But yeah, I don't think so, no.
All right, yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Does it still work? Absolutely. This is one of the best films. No, it's really frustrating because I remember liking the book a great deal. Hell, obviously, because then I saw the movie, which I also enjoyed. Haven't seen this in years, and looking back on it, I'm like, I don't know what appealed to me about it. It's a mostly white film, for one thing. It's like barely any black people in it. That whole rap line should have bothered me more at the time than apparently it did. And the character, I can't even relate to the character. Like,
yeah, because you're not an incel.
I wish I was pulling as many women as he was doing. But also, I'm not that into music. All these guys really, I don't relate to. I don't know what the appeal was for me.
To echo your point, that was the big problem with the movie for me, is that they forgot to ever give me a reason to sympathize with John Cusack's character. And you can make a movie that's good even if I don't like the good guy, right? Like, I don't have to like the hero of the movie for the movie to be good. Inside Llewyn Davis, I think, is a great example of a hero in a movie that you never have any reason to like, but you can still enjoy the film. But this movie, like, seemed to rely on me empathizing with this character the whole time. I'm like, just what if you just stopped being an asshole? Wouldn't that solve almost all of your problems?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this film unquestionably, and this is true of the book, is on his side. Mm-hmm. It definitely feels sympathy for him. There's no question about it.
So, I agree this doesn't work. And it's hard for me to say that because it has like two moments in it that I think were really important and would be really, like, if it wasn't for the rest of just the last 5 minutes of the movie, just keep that.
Sure.
Get rid of the rest of the movie.
So you just wanted a Jack Black concert.
Right. A Jack Black concert. No, when he's on the bridge talking about missing her, that's a great monologue, and I like everything he says in it. Like, he shows actual care, and like, these are things that, oh no, he is emotionally invested in this after all. And then the thing about making a mixtape for her based on what she would want, you almost never see that anywhere. You almost never see the amount of not thinking about yourself that one moment in the movie has. But it's only one moment in a movie full of moments that are just all navel-gazing angry. So no, it doesn't work, even though it could have so well.
I presume mixtapes are done, right? Nobody still does that.
Well, now it's a playlist.
Yeah.
I never even did it when it was a thing. Well, I may have been I was 33 when this picture came out, so I may have been too old for it. But did you guys ever do mixtapes?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah, me doing mixtapes was never a thing to give to someone else. It was just a way that I could get music for free by recording it off the radio.
Oh, for myself, I did that, sure. But I'm saying...
No, I did. I gave girls mixtapes. Everything about my personality as a young man was about, like, trying to maximize my chances of getting laid. So, yeah, I did a lot of mixtapes.
I mean, I wrote songs for girls.
I did that too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did that ever work for you, George?
No. I was not that good a song. You hear the theme music. I wasn't that good a songwriter.
That's how I won my wife's heart. So I guess it worked out for me.
Oh, that's nice. And is it probably the rock star hair? Helped,
yeah, well,
right?
you almost have to when you got my hair. You almost have to start writing songs for. They expect it.
Alrighty. So we have a threes. Does not work.
Indeed. Well, next time, better luck next time, John Cusack.
So, Ian, thank you again for your patronage. Thank you for suggesting this movie. And Noah, thank you again for joining us. Got anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, man. Yeah, check me out on The Scathing Atheist. Check me out on God Awful Movies, D&D Minus, and The Skeptocrat. And Citation Needed. What did I miss? Nope, I missed. That was it. Nope. It's all my podcast.
Yeah, that was it. That was all of them.
All
yeah.
Right.
All right, George, what's up next?
Next week, we will be talking about Up from 2009. Joe, have you seen this?
I did. I remember liking it quite a bit. I hope I still do.
Yeah, me too.
I definitely want your feedback on the opening, because this is one of the most
heartbreaking openings of a movie ever. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, you know about
that? It's one of those things where, like, everybody just remembers that the opening is so heartbreaking that they... Like, the rest of the movie was also good, but nobody ever talks about anything past the first 12 minutes of that movie, because, like, it's just it's one of the greatest short films ever fucking made, the opening of that film, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least, that's what I thought when I saw it in 2009. Who knows? We'll find out next week if it still works.
Very good film. Let's see if we both agree next week. So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romaka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's no one around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
I used to dream I'd be surrounded by exotic women's underwear forever and ever. Now I know they just save their best pairs for the nights they know they're going to sleep with somebody.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romaka. The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
In sync. It was pronounced in sync, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Not
in sync.
Sync, which is how it's spelled in sync, isn't it? Yeah.
If Prince, John Lennon, and Whitney Houston returned from the dead and each held their own solo one-night concert before they returned to the great beyond, who would you go see?
Prince.
You started, Noah.
Oh. So, what is the scariest movie that you've ever seen?
Do you think poverty is a choice? Not for the poor, but for society.
Well, for Joe, what do you usually have for breakfast? Noah, what do you usually eat first after you wake up?
Why is it acceptable to kill insects, I should say? Why? Why is
Depends on the